Ladies and gentlemen, the time has come. The long-awaited Snyder Cut of Justice League is here. The movie many debated didn't exist, a version people didn't believe would ever see the light of day. Well, it did. So let's talk about it. Here's a little refresher though, for those who've been living under a rock for the last 5 years. In 2017, Warner Brothers released Justice League, DC's big team-up movie that is essentially their competition towards the Avengers, the culminating movie of the DC Extended Universe, which at the time was Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Suicide Squad, and Wonder Woman. But, something went wrong, and that's putting it very lightly. The sort of guiding mind, the Kevin Feige of the DCU at the time, Zack Snyder, underwent a horrible family tragedy and had to step down from directing Justice League when there was only a little bit left to complete. DC, looking to rush this film out as soon as possible, then hired Joss Whedon to complete the film. But he did more than that. He reshot, rewrote, and basically constructed this weird Frankenstein monster of a movie out of spite towards Snyder's vision. Initially, I even liked Justice League. But of course, as time went on, it began to ring hollow. A cheap imitation of Marvel, which was what Warner was going for. You see, at the time, the DCU was, divisive, to say the least. Critics and fans did not take kindly towards the preachy, pretentious, and serious tone Snyder was taking with these beloved characters. So Warner thought bringing Joss could turn that around. And let me be on the record here, I was with the critics. I am not a big fan of Zack Snyder's DC films. I did not like Man of Steel, and Batman v Superman, while improved with the Ultimate Edition, only turned it into a mixed bag for me at best. But I respect Snyder as a person and as a filmmaker, so seeing such strong fan following grow over the years who appreciate his work to the point that Warner Brothers eventually brought Zack back to complete his vision, well, hey, might as well give it a shot, right? So I went in with an open mind and wow! Again, coming from a guy who does not like Zack Snyder's take on these characters, I really like this movie. But before we tackle the far superior version, let's talk about the good things about Justice League I actually missed from the Snyder Cut.
1. The opening montage. 2. The save one person scene. That's it. Now let's never speak of this film again.
Okay, time for the Snyder Cut. The premise is practically the same. Superman is dead and Steppenwolf is looking for 3 MacGuffins called Mother Boxes, so Batman has to assemble a team of heroes to stop him. But there's a lot under the hood of this car here that makes it different. And yes, let's address the elephant in the room, this movie is 4 hours long. Twice as long as the theatrical version, and I expected this film to be an absolute drag. But to my surprise, it didn't. This movie is paced so well, the hours just fly by. What came out as 4 hours honestly felt like 2. The movie does take its time, but not without purpose. It paces itself because it needs to give every character time to shine and establish themselves, making for a more fleshed out and coherent story. Each moment is interesting and pushes either the story or the audience's connection to a hero, resulting in there never being a dull moment. Well, aside from a couple slow-mo sequences that may come out a bit too long for some people, as per the Snyder tradition though, so you gotta take what you get. But it's all worth it for the scenes we never got in the original release, especially when it comes to the character development. The characters in Justice League were stagnant for the most part, only copying plot elements from the Avengers to push arcs, if you could call them that, forward. Here, let's just throw the last movie's characters into the trash, set it on fire, and cast into the depths of a black hole, because this isn't your mama's Justice League. Batman's motivations and development are still consistent to his arc in Batman v Superman, but he is a man not driven by cynicism or hate anymore, but faith and justice once again. It balances the Caped Crusader for me, still maintaining aspects that Snyder wants from Batman, but still maintaining the integrity I believe Batman should have. Wonder Woman ditches the tacked-on moping over Steve Trevor in favor of being more proactive in the cause to save the world and assemble these heroes. The Flash surprises me because a lot of the moments I thought came from Joss actually came from Zack the whole time. And while some may find his humor annoying, I always found him pretty fun. So what I liked about Barry Allen in Justice League still applies here. However, what changed is that the Flash, who is incredibly powerful but was reduced to being useless in the theatrical version, actually does something. I won't spoil what he does here, but Snyder really turned him from zero to hero and is arguably the MVP of the entire team. Aquaman, alright, he's the one that is pretty shafted this time. He has moments, and Jason Momoa still kills it as him, but he doesn't really have much of an arc. more of a trailer for the actual Aquaman movie. But the character who benefited the most from the Snyder Cut, no doubt, has to be Cyborg. Zack Snyder restores the tragic backstory and potential Cyborg has and turns him into the heart and soul of the movie. Some of his moments are arguably some of my favorite scenes in a superhero film to date. That's one hell of an accomplishment, and it makes me pretty sick to my stomach that all weeds looked at him and said,
"Yeah, that's boring. I'd much rather have him say booyah and nothing else."
Oh yeah, I should probably touch on the villain too, Steppenwolf, the man himself. Luckily, he actually does ditch that whole thing in favor of an actual motivation and backstory. Now he's an outcasted servant of Darkseid looking to just return home and get back in his good graces. Not to mention, he gets a much cooler design. Unfortunately though, I don't think that is enough to entirely redeem the character. He still remains the weakest of Snyder's villains, because while I'm not a fan of Zod and especially Luthor either, there's at least something interesting or at least memorable with them that keeps them in your head. Steppenwolf is not one of those guys. Heck, I'd probably remember the Justice League version more, simply for the silly way he says mother. But it's a worthy sacrifice to see these legends come together and actually be, heroic. That's what this movie needs to prove to me most of all. Man of Steel, BVS, those movies do very little to establish these characters as heroes. Instead, they're more like volatile balls of destruction that everyone should fear. But now seeing this movie added to the equation, maybe that was done on purpose. Batman, Superman, they tried their best to save others, but down the line, the burden became too much to bear. One became ostracized by the ones he tries to save, and one broke down over the countless losses he faced. As such, neither of them could really be symbols of hope if they had no hope in themselves. Only by working together though, putting aside their pasts and fighting for a greater cause, do they realize what it means to be heroes again. If you look at the Snyder trilogy in that way, as one big origin story for these godlike icons, it makes sense. Whether or not you like the approach is up to you, but at least there's logic behind it. Couple this sense of closure with well-developed characters, amazing pacing, beautiful visuals, and sound, Zack Snyder's Justice League proves to be an example of a creator seeing his vision through to the very end. And the fact that so many fans wished it into being and a studio which allowed him to do so, even if you don't like the man's work, it's still a testament to the power of someone's vision. That sometimes maybe, just maybe, a studio should shut up and let the director work his magic. It may not always work, but it's still unabashedly their own, flaws and all. Because yeah, there are flaws. Some scenes could have been cut. The new scenes with Joker I didn't think were necessary. Aquaman got the shaft. Steppenwolf still isn't that cool. The aspect ratio can be distracting. It's not a perfect movie. Nothing is. But I'm glad it exists, and I personally enjoyed the hell out of it. So I'm giving Zack Snyder's Justice League a
6 skills!
And hey, if you like this vid, feel free to drop an old subscribe on my feed. It really helps a lot and pushes me to make more reviews like this for y'all. There's still a lot of juicy stuff coming out this year. I hope you'll stick with me through it all.